Hello, it's Monday, the 30th of May, and welcome to your 5-minute briefs from Seoul. I'm your host, Hee-Jin Koo. In our third installment of the month, we'll give you a rundown of the summit between South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and US President Joe Biden and their plans to upgrade their ties to a global comprehensive strategic alliance, not just in military cooperation, but also in other areas such as economic industrial partnerships and person-to-person exchanges. We'll take a look at 5-year investment plans by SK and LG groups in chip, EV batteries, and biotech sectors. Samsung SDI's joint venture with Stellantis to build a $2.5 billion battery plant in Indiana, and South Korean central banks and Moody's downward adjustment of the nation's economic growth outlook for this year. Let's begin our 5-minute roundup. Leaders of South Korea and the US agreed to upscale their ties into a global comprehensive strategic alliance, reaffirmed their mutual goal of complete denuclearization of North Korea, and formalized Korea's participation in a US-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, during their first summit held in Seoul last week. At a joint press conference after the 100-minute summit, President Yoon told reporters that the two leaders agreed in almost every way and that their alliance now faces long-standing challenges as well as new ones such as the COVID-19 pandemic, trade order change, supply chain disruptions, climate change, and a crisis of democracy. Yoon said these challenges can only be overcome through solidarity among countries that share the universal values of liberal democracy and human rights. The two agreed that the Korea-US alliance is an example of such solidarity. And as part of their enhanced alliance, South Korea and the US agreed to strengthen economic ties, starting with annual meetings between their industrial ministers to discuss issues related to supply chains and key industries and seek ways to overcome challenges and achieve mutual goals. On the sidelines of the summit, Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy Lee Chang-yang and U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo agreed to enhance their economic cooperation and security, especially regarding the digital economy, healthcare technology and export controls, as well as high-tech manufacturing and supply chain resilience issues, including semiconductors. The two ministers recognized that the Indo-Pacific region should play a key part in the global economy with regards to solving the global supply chain crisis and agreed to cooperate actively to work towards stabilizing supply chains, digital economy, clean energy, and carbon neutrality through the aforementioned Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF. Major business lobbies in South Korea, such as the Federation of Korean Industries, the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Korea Enterprises Federation, welcomed the agreement, lauding the two nations for upgrading their economic alliance to a future-oriented one, saying it will actively support relevant follow-up efforts down the road. They also expressed hope that Seoul's participation in the IPEF will help expand the range of their cooperation, not just for global supply chains, but also in the high-tech sector and such international issues as climate change. And following the summit, South Korean business groups announced a string of investment plans and goals at home. SK Group unveiled a 5-year investment plan worth 247 trillion won or $196.3 billion to boost its semiconductor, battery, and biotechnology operations through 2026. This involves adding 50,000 hires as part of efforts to stimulate growth in the three areas. The company will invest 142 trillion won into creating a semiconductor cluster in Yongin, Gyeonggi province, as well as expanding chip-related facilities. SK plans to spend nearly 13 trillion won to increase facilities involved in developing new drugs for epilepsy and to expand contract manufacturing organizations. 67 trillion won will go towards expanding production facilities of electric vehicle batteries and lithium-ion battery separators, as well as securing facilities related to renewable energy and strengthening technology and competitiveness in such energy. LG Group also confirmed on Thursday a 106 trillion won or $83.7 billion spending package through 2026, hiring 50,000 new employees over the next 5 years, focusing on next-generation electric vehicle batteries, artificial intelligence, biopharmaceutical technology, and clean technology. Meanwhile, Samsung SDI and automotive giant Stellantis said on Tuesday they will invest more than $2.5 billion to build a new joint venture battery plant in Kokomo, Indiana, as the Chrysler parent ramps up electric vehicle production plans. The plant, slated to start in 2025, aims to have an initial annual production capacity of 23 gigawatt hours, which will gradually increase to 33 gigawatt hours over the next few years. The joint venture will create 1,400 new jobs, and the investment could gradually increase to as much as $3.1 billion. Stellantis is boosting production of plug-in hybrids, but has lagged behind some rivals in launching battery electric vehicles in the US. Indiana said the project is eligible for at least $186.5 million in incentives, plus additional unspecified ones. Kokomo, Howard County, Duke Energy Indiana, and the Northern Indiana Public Service Company have also offered additional incentives. Still, concerns of a global inflationary pressure loomed over South Korea, prompting its central bank to raise benchmark rates by a quarter percentage point to 1.75% on Thursday, its second hike in as many months. This is the first time in nearly 15 years that the Bank of Korea has raised rates back-to-back. BOK Governor Lee Chang-yong also hinted that additional rate hikes were possible. Still, he stopped short of pegging down a timing for the next hike, adding that it would hinge upon the nation's consumer price growth in May, as well as fiscal policy by the U.S. Federal Reserve. The central bank on Thursday also raised its outlook for the nation's inflation rate for this year to 4.5%, which would be the nation's strongest inflation surge in nearly 14 years. The figure is 1.4 percentage points higher than the bank's initial outlook released in February. The BOK also lowered its outlook for Korea's economic growth to 2.7% this year, down by 0.3 percentage point. Global credit ratings firm Moody's also cut its growth outlook for Asia's fourth largest economy on Thursday by 0.2 percentage points to 2.5%, citing its widening trade deficit due to soaring prices of energy and raw materials and a plunge in exports to China. That wraps it up for this episode of 5-Minute Briefs from Seoul. This has been Hee-jun Koo for KBSI, wishing you a great week.